Hey everyone, Dismantlin here with a vlog. I've gotten a couple requests to talk about this topic, and I've discussed this topic a little lightly on my blog and on my live stream videos, so I thought, why not put it in vlog format. I had a request to talk about how I got into the Goth subculture and sort of, slightly touch upon my journey from the beginning of getting into the subculture, or at least my interest being piqued about it, to where I am now. So let's start with, the beginning. I originally got into the subculture probably around late middle school, early high school. Probably more early high school. I think late middle school I knew more anyway, not really into it more, but I knew more about the emo subculture. And I identified more with that subculture. Though, I cringe to think about it now. I really do. I can't even, listen to the music I listened to back when I was into that stuff. It just, I don't know. As melodramatic as a lot of goth bands are, I find emo bands to be twice as melodramatic, and I can't even listen to that music now without, laughing. So, that's kind of how it started. Since I was kind of into the emo subculture, I had a lot of friends who were into alternative things as well, and the majority of my friends were into metal. And so I thought, I'd give it a listen. And I started off, with light stuff, like nu metal, and I gently got into other bands, and I found that I really, really loved metal. And I've said so before on my blog, as well as some of my live streams, and on my Tumblr, that I am really a metalhead at heart. And the reason I don't really identify more as a metalhead instead of a goth, or even a metal goth, the main reason I don't identify as a metal goth is because there's just so many different subparts of goth that I also identify as. So it's just a lot easier to say goth. It's just a lot easier to say goth than I just like dark things and blah blah blah. So that's the reason I just go under the goth label. Though normally I really just don't really like to deal with labels. It's just so much easier to explain it that way. But the main reason I don't identify as a metalhead versus a goth is because, I don't know. To me, the metal as a subculture is a lot more music-based than goth. I know goth is a music-based subculture, but over time it's branched out into covering art and literature and so many other things. With metal, it's more music-based than that. There's a few you can find, films, and there's a certain art style to, the cover art, which you can see something and be like, oh, well, that looks like, metal art. But as far as it goes, the aesthetics, there's not really too much to the aesthetic for a regular metalhead, unless you go with the extreme, demon-faced makeup and stuff. But for a day-to-day look, there's really nothing but, band t-shirt and jeans. And as much as I do love band t-shirts, I like to go with something a little bit more over the top, a little bit more dressier, often something a little bit more femmy. And metal just didn't give me that. Though I will admit, I do listen, I've admitted this before, but I do listen to a lot more metal than I do goth music. But everything else about goth, I identify more with when it comes to the art, the literature, the poetry, just the overall concepts to goth that I just identify more with than metal. And so as I branched more into metal music, and then I found out more about subcultures at that point. And that's when I learned about goth, and that's when I picked up this fits me, and that's when I started identifying with it, and that's when my baby bat phase officially started, though I consider my baby bat phase starting back when I identified more as emo. And it's kind of ironic, though, because when I first started, I did more DIY when I first started, and I looked the most Hot Topic-y at that point, so that's really ironic. That was the point in time where I bought less goth or alternative clothing, but I looked more like I did than I do now. And I think that's the one thing I miss about my baby bat phase, is that I did a lot more DIY clothing and accessories, because back then I couldn't really afford anything. So what I made up for in lack of clothing was with accessories. So I just had a ridiculous amount of earrings and mini hats that I made myself, and like little arm warmers. There was a point in time where I just loved arm warmers way too much, and I can't even consider like really wearing them now. So I just sort of cringe, really. But over time, I just refined my look. It was just a mixture of I move around a lot, and just going through and high school and stuff, and just kind of toning down my look a lot. There's certain things I toned up and certain things I toned down. My makeup is one of the things I toned down. I think that was the main thing I toned down. My hair is one of the things I toned up. And yeah. But overall, that's pretty much how I got into the subculture in general. It was mostly through music, which a lot of people will tell you that's how they got into the subculture. When I made the exact transition to listening from metal to goth, though I still listen to a lot of metal, I started listening to some horror punk and horror rock bands. And that's sort of how I transitioned from hearing metal to goth. Because some people were like, well, how'd you make that jump? It went metal, like horror, punk, horror rock, psychobilly, to leading to listening to goth bands. So that's where that missing link is, if you're wondering. I just wanted to hear what you guys think about me testing this bi-weekly schedule for vlogs. I said I would try either doing a monthly vlog or a bi-weekly, and this is the bi-weekly schedule, and I just wanted to know what you guys think, if I should continue doing the bi-weekly schedule, or if you just really don't want to see any more vlogs. So let me know what you think in the comments below, or on my site, or on my Tumblr.